China, South Korea, and Japan met in Seoul for the first time since 2012. Was the meeting anything to celebrate? Plus, new evidence suggests significant activity near North Korea's nuclear test site, another murder in Bangladesh, and conflicting reports in the Maldives as 7 more are arrested in the presidential assassination plot. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Good morning, everyone. Steve Miller here on this beautiful Monday morning, the 2nd of November of 2015. Great to have you with me here today, so thank you so much for joining me. Let's go ahead and begin the week with the story from East Asia, the Trilateral Summit. Reading the headlines coming out of Seoul, you would think that the East Asia Summit, the first high-level meeting between South Korea, Japan, and China, was a huge success. And in some ways, it was. After all, this is the first meeting that has taken place between these three nations since 2012. But the truth of the matter is that despite all its pomp and circumstance, it was a lackluster meeting that achieved nothing. Through trilateral cooperation, I believe that we will contribute to the peace and prosperity and security of not only our three countries, but the region and the international community, South Korean President Park Geun-hye said following the summit. And in a joint statement, they went on to further state, "We shared the view that the trilateral cooperation has been completely restored on the occasion of this summit," noting that regular trilateral summits would resume in 2016 and next time in Japan. So, is this the big win everyone has been reporting? No. Everything in the media is essentially spun by these three nations to try and save face after letting petty historical issues hamper relations. The fact that their respective finance and even defense ministers have met throughout the drought of trilateral meetings demonstrates this. In fact, the big takeaway from the meeting was that the foreign ministers agreed to establish a trilateral free trade zone and advance the East Asia market through the regional comprehensive economic partnership. The three nations also agreed to put more pressure on North Korea to return to denuclearization talks, which, quite frankly, is a joke, since those talks are dead and have been so for several years. While the meeting in Seoul truly didn't amount to anything more than photo opportunities with the press, it will be interesting to see if they stick to their word and meet next year in Tokyo and what comes out of that meeting. Now today, November 2nd, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and President Park Geun-hye will hold their first bilateral meeting, where it's reported that they will tackle some historical issues, which were conveniently glossed over at the trilateral meeting. South Korea's Yonhap news agency said North Korea has stepped up activities at the Punggye-ri nuclear test site. Now, this is where they've previously conducted nuclear tests and are expected to carry out a fourth one soon. Yonhap's anonymous source is reporting the DPRK is building a new tunnel. The source added, "The latest excavation work does not appear to be the sites of previous tests." Now, in 2013, Pyongyang carried out its third nuclear test shortly after construction of a similar tunnel. While Seoul and Washington are closely monitoring the situation, nothing definitive is known at this time. Some are skeptical that Pyongyang is preparing for another nuclear test. Kim Dong-yup, a researcher at University of North Korea Studies, said the latest North Korean move might be timed for the Trilateral Summit and U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter's DMZ trip this past weekend. The thing to watch will be if continued activity persists at Punggye-ri, because then we may in fact be looking at another nuclear test. The attacks on secular writers in Bangladesh continue. This past weekend, 2 separate attacks were carried out at publishing houses in Bangladesh's capital. Both of the publishers involved in Saturday's attacks had published works by Bangladeshi-American blogger and writer Avijit Roy, who was hacked to death at the Dhaka University campus while waiting for his wife this past February. This latest attack claimed the life of one publisher, and 3 others were injured. No one yet has claimed responsibility, but the militant group Ansarullah Bangla team has claimed previous responsibility for the other killings. Jagriti Prakashoni publisher Faisal Arifin Dipan, was found slaughtered in his office. Now, this was after Ahmed Rahim Tutul and 2 other writers were shot and stabbed by 3 men in their office at the Sudoswar publishing house in Dhaka. All 3 were hospitalized, with Tutul in critical condition. These attacks come as the nation reels from a pair of murders the government believes are being carried out to instill chaos and destabilize the country. While the Islamic State claimed responsibility for those killings, the government believes domestic Sunni extremists are behind them. Hot on the heels of the Maldives arresting its vice president for alleged involvement in a presidential assassination attempt last week, police have now rounded up 7 more following acquisition of a hidden weapons cache on the ocean floor. Officials say they collected 2 hand grenades, a rifle, a pistol, and more than 100 rounds of ammunition wrapped in carrier bags. These were found on the ocean floor at a depth of 45 meters in the remote Ba'a Atoll, some 130 kilometers northwest of the capital of Malé. Ali E. Hussein, a Maldives National Defense Force official, said that the investigation into the September 28th boat blast had led to the discovery of the weapons, some of which could be used to make improvised explosive devices or IEDs, noting that they could be set off anywhere at any time without knowing who placed them. The Maldives National Defense Force said it did not explicitly link the weapons to the assassination attempt, but that does make this next bit of news a little bit more interesting. Authorities in the Maldives sent forensic evidence to the United States following the boat blast for evaluation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has now said it has uncovered no evidence of an explosion on board the president's speedboat. Josh Campbell, the FBI spokesman, said in a statement emailed to Reuters News, based on the FBI's analysis, which included forensic analysis of the scene, analysis of items recovered from the scene, and chemical testing, there is no conclusive evidence to attribute the explosion on the boat to an IED. Maldives Home Minister Umar Nasir said that forensic tests were never 100% conclusive and that the Maldives would have the final say in the investigation. Well, my friends, those are today's stories. What did you think of the trilateral meeting? What do you think will happen behind closed doors today between Pak and Abe? Also, do you think we'll see another nuclear test from Mr. Kim up north? Or do you think the tunnel is just the latest attempt to get attention by North Korea? Please take a moment and let me know your thoughts on these or other stories, because I'd love to hear from you. The Asia Brief is a special feature of the Asia News Weekly podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with your friends, and if you haven't, subscribe. Subscribing is free, and when you do, the next episode is delivered automatically to you. You can subscribe on our website, asianewsweekly.net, or in your favorite podcast application. You can also keep up with more news from the region by following Asia News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. And if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, be sure to drop us a line. That email address is podcast@asianewsweekly.net. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, remember to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.